webinar today is called IT Professional's Guide to a Robust, Secure, and Customizable Intranet. So that being said, again, if you have any questions, type them in the box, and Amol, take it away.
Thanks, Colton. My name is Amol. I'm the sales director here at Thought Farmer. I've been with Thought Farmer for almost 7 years now, and lots of organizations coming in, evaluating Thought Farmer, and fortunate enough, moving forward as well. Oftentimes when we see people evaluating Thought Farmer, it's usually communication people and also IT people, and a lot of times different types of questions in regards of the software, the capabilities. So our focus today is going to be on the IT perspective, kind of give you some ins and outs from front-end configurability, back-end configurability, and a little bit more about just hosting options, integrations that are available within Thought Farmer, and the customization aspects as well. You know, Thought Farmer is an out-of-the-box internet product. So essentially, if you're kind of thinking about the back end there, we're like a Microsoft stack, so a .NET framework written in C#. And essentially what we're focusing in on is providing you all the kind of feature set that you would need in any kind of modern intranet. And so desktop capabilities, mobile capabilities, all available within the product itself. This is our dev team. So there's quite a few of them. One thing that we're quite proud of is that everybody is here based in Vancouver. So our dev team works very closely with our UX team, our product planning team, our professional services team, our sales team, our customer success team. A lot of times we get together, we talk about what clients are looking for, what prospective clients are looking for, and really that helps us define our product roadmap for Thought Farmer as well. A lot of client feedback. And I think that it's been working well for us. Here's a quick look at some of our clients. We've been around for 11 years. Over the last 11 years, we worked with hundreds of organizations across the world. We do really well within the kind of financial sector, you know, banks and credit unions. But you'll notice these ones here are quite variety of different industries. So YVR, the airport, FYI Doctors, Destination Canada, and NBC. When it comes to employee size and range, it's kind of like, you know, the 50 employees, sometimes even a little bit less than that, but then over, you know, 7,000 employees. Thought Farmer is kind of meant to be scalable. So maybe even start off with like a small division of the organization and can expand from there. So that's definitely possible. All right, so let's talk really quickly about hosting options. Essentially, you have a couple of different ways of going about it. You have cloud, so that's hosted by us, or you have it on your own servers. It's totally up to you in regards to which deployment option you want to go with. In the cloud, we work with here in Vancouver, GT.net. They're based out of Vancouver as well. And basically, when it comes to our cloud data centers, you have the opportunity by default of hosting it in Vancouver, backups in Toronto, or then you have the opportunity of hosting it in London for any of our global clients across the world there. There is also the option, you know, if you're down in the States, you may have some requirements where you have to be able to host any of your data within the United States as well. We do have a third option of being able to host in New York there as well. When it comes to security and certifications, our provider is up to, you know, they have all of the latest accreditations that are available to them. So the one that's kind of like a fancy one that's out there, the SSAE 16 SOC1 Type 2 certification. There's one called AT 101, which I think is the latest and greatest. All of that is things that we've been audited for and have available within our system there as well. Now, managed backups, performance hosting, managed upgrades, and SAML authentication as well. So all of this is supported in the back end of our cloud deployment option. And one thing to note as well is that we're a single tenancy model. In comparison to like a multi-tenancy model. So single tenancy means that we actually install a separate instance of Thought Farmer on our cloud database for each client, right? So you have your own kind of ownership over the instance. The advantage there is firstly, customizations kind of gives you a little bit more opportunity to be able to extend Thought Farmer. And then also when it comes to decision making, you know, around upgrades, for example, you have the decision to be able to do an upgrade or not. It's not something where it's being pushed on you. You know, an advantage, an example is multi-tenancy wise is Salesforce, right? So Salesforce, if you're a Salesforce client, when you log into that instance, it's almost like a shared instance, but you have your own kind of separate database. And I think like the one advantage is like, yes, you can push out upgrades really well, but you know, I heard even earlier this month where there was an issue with Salesforce where somebody had logged in and they were looking at somebody else's data. Right? And so that was because of the multi-tenancy model. So there was something that happened in the back end when they did an upgrade. And so all of a sudden, this client was seeing somebody's totally different customer database, which is not great. With the single tenancy model, it helps you avoid that type of scenario. All right, so let's now talk a little bit about on-premise. It's fairly simple and vanilla when it comes to the requirements there, standalone or dual servers. Essentially what we're looking for on your end is the responsibility of having a SQL database and then a Microsoft Windows server. SQL database-wise, depending on the size of the organization, we don't recommend Express. That's for sure, right? Because usually you have like that 10 gig database limit there. But anything above that, it should be sufficient. Active Directory sync, this is also available with the cloud, but obviously with the on-premise edition as well. So single sign-on, syncing user information, syncing Active Directory groups, syncing security profiles, all of that is available as well. Then also with the on-premise edition, we do have a SharePoint Intranet connector, which allows you to search for SharePoint document libraries, then also embed SharePoint documents within ThoughtFarmer as well. All right, integrations. So, integrations can be very important for an organization, especially if you want to make sure that this new system, this new intranet is kind of entrenched in your workflow. It can mean a lot of things, right? It can mean simply like a link into a different system, or you're actually pushing information as well. So here's a quick list, some of the formal integrations that we have. So again, as mentioned, Active Directory, single sign-on capabilities with Active Directory, authentication available with SAML technologies. So the ones that we have out there is like OneLogin, Okta, Azure, all of those are supported in the back end as well. And then Google Drive and Office 365 integration. And this is specifically around the document use case scenario. And during actually the live demo, I'll touch upon those items in particular. All right, configuration options. So what we're going to talk about configuration-wise is front end and back end. And kind of like the differences that I think, configuration rather than customization is customization oftentimes requires some kind of coding, where configuration, it shouldn't, right? And so configuration-wise, front-end capability, we have multiple page templates, we have mobile responsive design, we have embedding via an iframe, and then one of the more advanced features that's available within ThoughtFarmer is IP filtering for security, and we'll talk about that as well. But coming soon is also form flow. Form flow is going to be a built-in feature within ThoughtFarmer that is eForms and having associated workflow with those eForms. Okay, so backend configurability, we're talking about theming options. So branding, for example, is going to be an aspect of that. User management, so just being able to manage users within the Active Directory synchronization, but then also being able to create users directly within the system itself. Kind of that use cases like partners or consultants, for example. Analytics, we have robust analytic packages that are available, and then also search configuration, right? So what we're using in the backend for search, our search engine is an Elasticsearch application. So we were using Lucene Search for a long time. We ended up going with Elastic just because there's lots of search enhancements that provide great value for an internet product. Okay, customization options. Again, integrations can mean a lot of things, but also just the ability to customize and extend ThoughtFarmer can also be important. So the hooks are there. You can create custom cards via JavaScript or CSS, or use our Open REST API for deeper integrations. So these customizations can either be developed by your own staff, or you can leverage our professional services team for assistance that way as well. All right, so that was a quick slide deck. We're going to go ahead and jump right into the live demo at this point. I am going to jump into a little fictitious demo site that we've set up here. We call it Pacific Savings and Trust. So this is a fictitious company as well, but this is a homepage of ThoughtFarmer. So this is ThoughtFarmer. Regardless if you go with cloud or on-premise, it's going to look somewhat like this. And one thing to note here as well is that everything that I'm going to be showing you here is going to be available in both instances, right? So something to keep in mind. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here is integrations. I think first and foremost, we can get into a profile page. And very simply, Active Directory integration. So what does that look like? Firstly, Stuff like this, user information that's coming from Active Directory can be available in people's profile pages. So like oftentimes you'll have email address, you'll have somebody's phone number, you may have somebody's position available in Active Directory, and then you can just sync that over so that information is pre-populated when somebody first logs into the site there. Now, login-wise, it is single sign-on. So if somebody logs into the network environment, they go into their browser. Oftentimes, the intranet will be the default for the browser as well, and you're automatically logged in. Now, when it comes to synchronization of these user fields, you can either have like a one-way sync or a two-way sync. So where it makes sense to have like a one-way sync is people's position, right? So, you take their positions, you put it into their profile pages, but they can't edit that. Because the one thing you don't want is like, 40 presidents walking around on the within your internet there. But like where it could make uh, an example where it could work is for two-way sync is under cell phone field, right? So maybe you have that as an Active Directory field, but you do allow people to edit that within their profile page. They got a new cell phone number. It can automatically update Active Directory field as well. But you can be very granular, kind of making those decisions on, what can be updated, what's a one-way sync, and what's a two-way sync there. Okay, now also, any of these fields that you're seeing here are going to be fully searchable in the staff directory. So, here's a list of everyone. Like, for example, if I want to find somebody who speaks French, I can type that in, and very quickly here, it finds the 6 people in this that meet that criteria French there. Now, from here, another integration piece is the org chart viewer. Now, this org chart viewer is integrating with Active Directory, specifically with the manager report field. So this kind of sets you up with a dynamic org chart, still kind of your traditional look into the organization, but now you can really start building out teams here as well, right? So you can kind of see who starts at your C level, but who reports to who's part of what team, all of that is available in the org chart. One thing to note here as well is that every feature within Thought Farmer, including this org chart, you can turn on or off, right? So if you don't want to take advantage of this org chart, maybe you already have one available somewhere in the organization, you can just simply turn this off. Okay, so let's now get into another example of a group page. Is if I, one second here while I do a quick fix here. Group pages, right? So the one thing that you can do within Thought Farmer as well is that you have the opportunity of taking groups that are happening in Active Directory and then being able to go ahead and synchronize those groups directly within your Thought Farmer site there too. So let me just give me 2 minutes here while I do a quick fix. There we go. Okay, just gonna bring this back over. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the site here, and I'm going to make a group page. So I'm going to just jump under here, and I'm just going to add a page, and I'm going to say like, group test. This is the rich text editor within Thought Farmer. So this is how you create content, create structure on the internet. But whenever you're creating a piece of content, what you really want to do now is map it with the right content type. So in this case, I'm going to select group. And then there's your membership options. Right, so the first one is open, where anybody can add themselves to this group. The second one is managed, where you're simply just dragging and dropping people. I often find like open is good for any kind of social groups. If you have like the jogging club, for example, it probably makes sense for people to be able to join that group, and you kind of encourage participation there. Managed is more like ad hoc groups, like kind of moment in time. So maybe you're doing some kind of community event, right? And so you have a few people that are going to be joining in on that and organizing it. That makes sense there. And the third option is closed. So closed is doing a direct sync with Active Directory. So if this was hooked up with AD, all I would do here is type in the Active Directory group name, and then it just syncs and synchronizes that membership up there. Now the thing is that what if the use case is that somebody leaves the organization or somebody moves departments? Oftentimes, the IT team, your process is that you're going to take that action within Active Directory. The same action can happen in real time within Thought Farmer, right? So if somebody leaves, you disable their account in Active Directory, it will disable their account in Thought Farmer too. Now, also what you can do is you can use that group that you're setting up as a security group or security profile. So anywhere else on the site you want to be able to kind of bring in membership or change up security permissions, that will be as an option for you as a security profile there as well. Okay, so we're going to get into now, so that was the kind of the Active Directory integration. What we're going to get into now is Google Drive and Office 365. So I'm going to jump into a site, our intranet here at Thought Farmer, and it has access to Google Drive integration. And so let's go into here. This is just my profile page on my real intranet. And oftentimes what I do is using my profile page, I kind of create sub pages to it. It's kind of like my own little digital workplace here. So I'm going to add a page, and I'm going to do here Google test. Now, the one kind of thing to consider, and this is more about that front-end configurability, is that anytime you're creating a page within Thought Farmer, it's got its own template, right? And there's an ability here to set up cards, so you can modify templates, right? So in this case, I can modify. I'm going to set up my Google Drive. Okay, I need to log in. So I've logged in, and like now I have some options of being able to embed either folders that are living in Google Drive or actual individual files. So I'm gonna actually take this entire folder, which is a big one, and I'm gonna update it, and then I'm gonna say I'm done, and I'm gonna publish. Okay, so now what you'll notice is that within this page here is all my presentations, my folders available within this page. The same thing can be done with just an individual file. Right, so if I go into this page here, so this is just a slide that's available within Google Drive, but now I'm making it available directly within this page. So that's the first example of Google Drive integration. There's also the ability to do search within Google Drive as well. But what I want to touch upon really quickly here now is Office 365 integration. So what we're noticing is more and more organizations are using Office 365, and they're looking for the ability there to have some embedding options or searching options within Office 365. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the site that has Office 365 set up. Then we can go ahead and kind of show you an example of that there. Now, one thing to note as well is that that Active Directory integration that I showed earlier, the same thing can be done with lots of SAML technologies as well, right? So Okta is one that I mentioned, OneLogin, Azure, those are the ones that we see most popular when it comes to SAML technology, and that authentication piece, the syncing of user information, all of that can happen there as well. Okay, so let's get into this site here. And let's now show the Office 365 integration. So I'm going to add, and then from here, I'm just going to say Office 365. Oops, let's spell that right. 65 test. And again, just setting up cards, modify my template. I'm going to add a card, and the one I'm going to bring in is Office 365. Let's move it right to the top here and set it up. Okay, so let me log in. So that's the one that I want to log into. So I only have a couple. I don't really use Office 365 too often, but I have some examples here. So maybe I'll use this one, update that, say done, say publish. So now what you'll notice on this integration piece is very similar to the Google Drive integration, where I've just brought in that HR policies folder, and there you see the files that are living within Office 365. Now search-wise, let's do a search. Okay, so I'm going to do a search for like purchase orders. So firstly, you're noticing even the predictive search results, the first results are coming from the intranet, but there on the bottom there, you'll notice results that are coming from Office 365. But I'll press enter, and then there's your search results here. So the first set of the results is what's happening within the actual intranet itself, and the second one is doing that search query directly within Office 365. So just as a recap, Google Drive, embedding documents and embedding folders and search, and Office 365, the exact same thing, right? So being able to embed documents, embed folders, and be able to do search as well. Okay, so let's now talk about configuration. So we talked about integrations configuration-wise, front-end capabilities. So let's go back into the site here, and I am going to say on, so like this main navigation, all right, so we have branches, we have departments, we have a calendar that's set up here, but this is fully configurable on your end. And we're gonna go ahead and add a new section to the navigation. Okay, so I'm gonna jump back into my home page here. There's my administrative cogwheel, add a top level page, and I'm gonna call this one, policies. Now, again, you want to map the right content type with the right, with what I'm creating now. So in this case here, I am going to create as a section and I'm going to publish. Okay, so now we have policies on that main navigation. Maybe I want to, build up my policies area. So I'm going to add again. So I'm going to say, an area for finance, create that as a section and publish. Go back to policies now, there's finance, and let's create one more and say this is marketing and publish that. Now, again, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of opportunity there to be able to configure these page templates so that it makes sense for the organization. So I'm going to give you an example here. Okay, so we have like a group page. Now, group pages can cover a lot of use cases. It could cover a department page. It could cover like a location page like this, but the layouts may be a little bit different for both use cases. Okay, so if I go under Whistler here, so this is a group page, but it's specifically for location. So the way that I've set this one up is I have like an activity stream that's set up here. There is the Whistler team calendar on the right-hand side. There's a location card here on the left-hand side, which makes sense because this is a location group. And then below that is all my membership, right? These are all the people that are part of this particular team. Now let's go to another group page. So let's go to departments here and let's go under, there was one example in particular that I want to show, human resources. Okay, this one looks different, right? Now all the subsections are kind of in the middle here. We put members on the left-hand side. We put the activity stream here on the right-hand side. Okay, there's a polling card here too. But again, all of this you can configure. So if I were to add a new like location group, I would select group type is gonna, oh, sorry, content type is group. I would set up cards, and this is where I make those decisions. Right, so I'm going to modify the template, maybe move the group members left-hand side, set up a location card, but put on the left-hand side as well. Maybe I want a photo collection, move that to the top. I would say done, and I would save that, and then that layout is going to be applicable on this particular page. Now you may want consistency, right? So you may have like, okay, location pages should look like this, department pages should look like this, and we want people to just select like that particular layout. So as administrators, what you could do is you could jump into the administration panel, and then you can start setting up these different page templates for the different use cases that you have there. So there's an area within the administration panel here, once we jump in, called content type templates, and that allows here to be able to set up those different layouts. So each one of your content types is available here. I'm going to add a new one for group, and I'm going to say, okay, I want a particular layout for project groups. Okay, and then again, I start making some decisions here, right? So I want that to go there, I want that to go to there, I can save that. And now when somebody creates a project group, they can select this layout and you have some consistency across the board there. Okay, so let's go back into policies here. And I want to show another integration piece as well, which kind of falls into place of creating like content on the intranet. So here's finance. I'm going to add a subsection to finance. I'm going to say how to create a PO in QuickBooks. So this type of content, a lot of times in your project phase, you have content already living, you're just trying to migrate it over. And a lot of times that content is living in documents. So what you could do here is you could do a direct import tool, or you can use this import tool. So this is an integration with Microsoft Word. So I'm going to say yes to full formatting. I'm going to browse my computer. I am going to jump into my folder. There's my doc. I open it, I import it, and now all of that content that was living in that Word document has been brought directly into this to this web page. So I publish that. So let's take like a use case now, some collaboration that's taking place here, right? So here's this page. It's been living on the internet for a while. It's a policy. It's out of date. So now one of our staff members mentions that to us. Hey, this is out of date. So they're using the commenting feature here. Now commenting, like I said, every other feature as well, it can be turned on or off, right? So you don't necessarily have to have it on a page if you don't want it. But if it's been turned on, something like this could happen. Then somebody can come in here, they can edit this page, delete some stuff, and then save it. And then a person with edit privileges will also have a version history available to them. That's all in red or removed, all in yellow brought in. And if you need to, you can always restore back to previous versions of this page as well. Now, from here, I want to show the opportunity of being able to embed via iframe. So I'm just going to jump into my YouTube channel here at Thought Farmer. Now, embedding, I think, works for a lot of different applications. I've actually seen people embed Excel reports, sales reports, directly into the system as well. Let me just pause that, and then let's go into here. So, like, let's take this video, for example. Okay, so, oops. Actually, let's go into this one so I can get into it. So I'm going to share. So there's an embed option within YouTube. There's that code that I want. I copy that. So now what I want to do is I want to embed it into a page. So maybe I want to embed it into this one. So I'm going to edit this page, and I want it to show up like here somewhere. So within the toolbar here, you'll notice an insert code option. So insert that in. So now it's embedded via iframe. I save that. And now you'll notice that that video is available here, and you can play that video directly within the site here as well. So that's the example of embedding via iframe. Now, another thing to note as well is that the site is fully responsive. Okay, so if you do want to provide access remotely to your staff, the way that they would log in is through a secure URL using the web browser of that device. Okay, so the same username and password that they're used to, if it's in Active Directory, it's the same one there. So they would log in, and essentially what we do here is we stack those cards up so that any of the content that's available on their desktop version will be available on their mobile device as well. And also if they have edit privileges in an area, they would be able to go into the site and be able to edit pages, create new content. All of that will be available for them as well. And the other use case is like, okay, I am off-site and I'm working with a client, or something is needing a repair and I'm not sure how to fix it. I've seen this use case where people will take a picture on their mobile device and then go ahead and upload that to the intranet. So like, let's take this example here. So I'm here, right? I go into like a photo gallery area here. So maybe this one. And then you can see you can just add images directly into that photo gallery from your mobile device as well. Now, one use case it's an advanced feature is IP filtering. Okay, so what IP filtering allows you to be able to do is basically on a page-by-page basis, you can lock down particular pieces of content based upon the IP. So the use case is like, okay, I'm in Canada. I work for the military, for example. I have some sensitive content that's on the internet, and now I'm flying to China. Okay, and I want to access my internet, but that sensitive content, some of it I don't want to make available if I'm out of Canada. I don't want it to be available when I'm in China. So what you could do actually is set up an IP range so that that content that you may have access to security-wise, you can see it within your network environment, but as soon as you leave your network environment, it's locked down, right? So you can do that on a page-by-page basis as well. All right, backend stuff. So we talked about front-end capabilities. Backend wise is the administration panel. Okay, so in the administration panel, there's lots of configuration options that are available here too. Firstly, is like theming. So colors and logos, you can always update. All of that stuff is configurable. We help you with branding in the initial time that you sign on with Thought Farmer. So you'd work with our design team there. But then also, the content settings, so being able to set up predefined tags. Somebody leaves the organization, you can change ownership of content from one person to another, restoring content, doing reports on what is still content on the internet, and then be able to make some decisions based upon that. So there's all your content kind of notifications and configurations. User-wise, again, you can either synchronize users with Active Directory, or you can manage users directly within the system itself. So usually if you kind of have like a combination of the two, you would have AD users that are staff, that maybe like partners or consultants would be non-AD users, right? So you create that user, then you set that up within the system itself. So there's your user settings. Analytic-wise, we have a couple of analytic packages. The first one is this leaderboard option, kind of gives you like a high-level summary on what's taking place on the internet, so you can kind of see all that here. But then we also offer internet statistics package. So it's a robust dashboard that shows you visits by each person, what they're visiting, what they're commenting on, what they're searching for. And then lastly is search settings. So you notice lots of ability here to be able to configure your search. Right, so this stuff is a lot of times, we've already optimized it for internet search. So you don't really change too much of that, but you have that ability there, right? Even best bets. Best bets is when you know that people are searching for particular queries, that they're looking for certain content items, you can always make sure that that shows up on top, right? So the example right now is I have phrases official. So if I go into my intranet here and search for official, the most recent, or if I think that content was deleted, but let me just do it up here on our intranet, and I'm going to do a search here for Thought Farmer. And what you'll notice is that this check these out area. Right, so these are best bets. And again, these are queries that you know that people are looking for most often, or content when they're searching for that particular query. Okay, that was front-end configuration, back-end configuration. Let's talk really quickly about customizations. So with customizations, you can either use the card option, where you can create your own cards using CSS and JavaScript. So here's some examples of some, right? If I edit this card, you can kind of show you in the back end what it looks like there. Or what you can do is you can use the REST API within Thought Farmer. Okay, and so then you can either push and pull information from different applications that way as well. So I'm just going to show you 3 cards that we've done for customizations for clients. The first one is this, and this is a very popular one. Okay, so I am going to go back into this area here. So here's that PO in QuickBooks, but maybe what we would need to do is we need to confirm that people read this piece of content. So I'll show you what a custom card looks like and how to apply it. So I'm going to set up cards. I'm going to modify the template. I'm going to add a card. And the one that I'm going to add in here now is required reading. Okay, so that's a custom card. So you saw it kind of had its own area within this area here to be able to create cards. So this is custom cards area. And so then there's my report. Okay, I say done, I say save, and now we've applied a customization or an extension to Thought Farmer right on this page. Okay, so that's that fancy button here. Somebody presses that, and then you see this page report down here too, which is a custom card within Thought Farmer as well. So first example of customizations is that. The next example, so presence indicator. Sometimes this is popular for some clients. So this is the way that this one works, is if I go to my profile page here, the use case is that I come into my intranet and then I let people know what I'm up to. Okay, so I'm in the office today, I'm working from home today, I'm sitting at desk. So you would edit that. And then there's the opportunity here of being able to get a report. So there's a report of everybody in the organization. So this is another custom card that was embedded onto this page, but this is a quick example here. Another way to be able to extend Thought Farmer. Some other things that we've seen on profile pages is gamification, right? So say, for example, you want to be able to incentivize people for doing actions on the intranet. So if you do 20 comments, for example, maybe you get a badge, right? So that's something that we've done on the profile page there as well. Now, lastly here is, let me just jump into floor plan. So some organizations, what they want to be able to do is, have from their staff directory the opportunity to be able to find people in the organization. So in this case, it's simply just a find me. You'll see that there. And then it basically clicks into a floor plan, right? So it opens up the floor plan. You can see exactly where people are sitting. You can see the floor mapping there, right? The room mapping. And there's an example of, one of the people. You can hover over their name and see exactly who they are. Right, so I think the floor plan is pretty interesting as well, especially if you're a larger organization. Maybe you have lots of different levels that people are working on, and now it's a quick way for people to be able to see where people are working. All right, so we covered a lot there. The last thing that I want to just touch upon is eForms. So I mentioned that a little bit earlier in the presentation. It is coming out in September or October of this year, so in the fall time sometime. But essentially what you're going to be able to do is be able to create eForms within Thought Farmer and then have workflow behind it, right? So this is just a landing page kind of giving you an idea of the interface, right? So that's going to be what it looks like when you're able to build out forms. That's what it looks like when you embed a form onto a page. There's your workflow aspect where you can set up different stages. Then you can set up some timing in regards to how long it takes to submit, how long it takes to review. So all that kind of data is going to be available there as well. And there's some examples of like things that you think that most organizations are going to be looking for, right? So business card orders, volunteer setups, employee surveys, upgrade requests. all of that is going to be available. And then also list management. So if you're like somebody that is very familiar with SharePoint, lists are very big within SharePoint. We're going to have something very similar to that as well. All right, so that's it. We have some time here if there's any Q&A on your end there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Amol, for shedding some light on what it looks like from a technical standpoint on the product. And yeah, we'll open things up for some questions. If you want, you can type them into the GoToWebinar question box. We'll give you a few minutes to do that. I'll kick things off here first. You talked a little bit about customization. What does customization process look like using the Thought Farmer professional services team? Say we don't really have the resources or technical abilities to do anything ourselves, but we want to extend it in some way that's unique to us. What does that look like as far as utilizing the Thought Farmer team, and how long, and that kind of thing?
Right. So oftentimes what we normally will do process-wise is that if somebody has like a request for a customization, usually we'll ask them to provide us with a bit of a detail in regards to what does that look like? What is the use case that it's trying to solve? What is the audience for that particular customization? And just a lot more detail about it. So what we do is we review that, and at that point we say yay or nay. Right? Yes, this is possible. Most times it is, and then oftentimes we'll provide you with an estimate of work. Right? So, there's going to be dev time to be able to do those customizations. We put that up front. We set up a separate statement of work if you agree upon it, and then we go ahead and move forward with that customization. Oftentimes what we notice though is that with customizations cost-wise, is usually in the hundreds of dollars to the low thousands of dollars. Right? So it's not like a huge investment to be able to do some of those customizations.
Fantastic. A couple more came in here. Cloud versus on-premise. Is there a difference between the two?
There really isn't, right? With cloud and on-premise, all the features are essentially the same. Usually we see more organizations that are looking at cloud now just because they don't have to worry about hardware requirements, backing up and all that kind of stuff. We manage that all on our end. And also because accreditation wise, like our system is security wise is more than up to par. And, we have examples like Bank of Oklahoma Financial, 5,500 employees. They're using the cloud edition of Thought Farmer. The Nuclear Decommissioning Authority in the UK were using Thought Farmer for almost 5 years, and they went through a massive due diligence to be able to use our system just because they're dealing with nuclear stuff, right? And so that stuff is happening on the internet, and they were able to use this for quite some time as well.
Awesome. Last question here. How long does installation take?
Yeah, it's a matter of days, right? So when somebody signs a contract to actually installing the software, kind of the process in the middle is that there's like a technical kickoff call, so we get all of our ducks in an order on both sides, and then we simply install the software, right? So that either is happening on your server or we're installing that on our database center. But really, the heavy lifting of any of these kind of internet projects is content migration, right? So that's where most of your effort is going to be. But getting the site up and running, getting the features up and running, does not take very long at all.
Fantastic. Looks like there's no other questions, so thank you very much, Amol, for today. And
No worries.
yeah, thanks everyone so much for attending. And that being said, have a wonderful day.